Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My brothers and my sisters in Islam, we are living in Manila, which is we are a minority. But sometimes we want to educate our children in the private schools. But the obstacles is we know that private school will not educate our children with Islamic educations. So how to deal with that obstacles? See you after this. My brothers and my sisters, education is one of the fundamental thing in Islam, especially for our children. So that's why Islam emphasizes the things about educations. But as the parents, we are living in Manila, we find so hard to find Islamic schools or maybe private school, which means if we register our children to the private school, we'll find easiness there because they are cut off of the prices and sometimes they are free of charge. But the problem is when we register our children to the private school, especially in Manila, we'll find that there are lack of Islamic educations, and moreover they will be educated with other curriculum, let's say Catholic curriculum. So as the parents, we will very consider of these things because we have to remember in Surah An-Nisa verse 9, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim wal yakhsha alladhina law taraku min khalfihim dhurriyatan di'afan khafu alayhim فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا, which means that every one of us should fear if we take the lost generations, the weak generations. The weakness of generations, some of them is educations. So that's why Islam emphasizes us to teach the children with a Tawheed. Tawheed is not only to know that the only one God is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also we know and we educate the children with the pillars of Islam. But somehow, when we live in minority in Manila, we find obstacles in that things. So first thing you have to remember, my brothers and my sisters, first we have to find a very good standard education for our children. So that's why we have to find in a community or Islamic community which is maybe exists in Manila. But maybe after we search maybe in internet or maybe in the brochures, we cannot find any. So our second opinion could be we teach our children by ourselves. Maybe we can say it is kind of homeschooling basis. But if the parents are so busy, let's say they are busy parents with the business or with their kind of works in the office sometime, moreover, and many things of that, we can maybe put our children in to the ustad or to the teacher. Let's say Islamic teacher, which they can teach Islamic teaching. We can teach hadith, Al-Quran, hadith, tafsir, and so on, based on Islamic educations. Even though maybe some skills they cannot teach, so you can put your children in, let's say, courses, piano courses or language courses, many other courses. One thing that you have to remember, courses is only education, additional education. So the first thing you have to put to your children is Tawheed, is Islamic educations. But how if maybe we are in the condition that we have to or we we must register our children to the private schools, which is non-Islamic education standard. So remember that even though they are in private schools, we have to still teach them Islamic education at home, at least at home. So it would be a balance between the education in the schools, which is secular educations, with the education at home, which is Islamic education. So it will be very good for us as a Muslim in the minority country to still fulfill our obligation to put the foundation of Islamic standard in our children. Because actually we register our children to the private school, it is allowed as long as we can maintain the Aqidah. Because as we know that the education standard in that private school is not the Islamic education standard. So that's why even though they are going to school in the morning, for example, and in the afternoon we can educate the children with the Islamic education standards. So that's why Islam really emphasize the balance between a knowledge in ad-din, a knowledge in religion, and in knowledge in outside of the religion. So my brothers and my sisters, there are tips for education for the children in minority country, and see you in the next chapter inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.